Hi, Zizaran here with another video, and in this video I want to cover the current state of bosses, both normal ones and Ubers, and whether they should have mods on them and things like that. It's a quite big contention point in the league right now with the big change to the endgame tier 17s, which are supposed to be a middle ground between tier 16s and Ubers, but they're quite a lot harder than Ubers. Tier 17 maps are now a big part of the endgame progression. It is even, well, say bye-bye to Legion. That is no longer how you get your 5-slot map device. It is now through tier 17. That's how you get the device. And that is how you access Ubers, as the Fragments drops from the tier 17s. It is no secret that they're incredibly hard, and a big part of this is mostly the mods. I actually think if there were white and there was no league mechanic, they would be quite doable. But they would also be slightly harder, and this is something I do want to bring up early in the video. The All Flame, like the potential for the All Flame, actually makes it doable. There are two monsters that are incredibly rippy that on hardcore you basically have to skip by turning them into rats or frogs. Or something else easy like exiles or other scary monsters, but they're not as scary as these. And that is Revenants. Revenants are insanely scary in tier 17s. We've seen multiple people just get one shot to them.
Probably. Okay, well there you go, I'm dead. Backtrack and do a DD.
While going through, and obviously you do want to clear at a pretty good pace because the maps themselves aren't worth clearing unless you're doing one of the strategies where they are worth clearing, obviously. But generally, like, boss rushing them are quite useful, and then you want to go quite fast. But the Revenants are incredibly deadly. They basically have to be skipped. Now, nextly, let's just assume that we don't have the All Flames nextly. How do we deal with the Revenants? We basically have to either go giga slow or we'll just get one shot. I mean, sure, that could be an okay thing. Maybe that's how they want us to play, that we are like, you know, let's kill that thing over there. Melee can't go anywhere near it. Fuck melee. And that's accessible, or not accessible, that's acceptable too. But I do want to make sure that that's something that's very heavily considered, that there are two monsters. It's the Revenants, and then there's some other Belly of the Beast monster that spits, that does like 6 times more damage than it should. So many of the mods are completely insane. These are way harder than Ubers. Like, so I've been doing tier 17s right now, and I'm spending anywhere between 20 to 80 chaos per map rolling them to get like a pretty okay map. And this is on a very expensive, somewhere between 700 to 1,000 divine character. So hardcore does feel a little bit in a weird state right now. There's very few people that can farm these. It's like me, Steel, and probably like less than 20 people. But very few people that can farm these. And it is still very scary. We see a lot of people die per day. I was farming tier 17s and I'm like, I'm getting Huck to follow me for Purity of Ice. I'm getting +3 max res and lots of damage from Nico. I'm picking up shrines and trying to pick up shrines before the boss. And it's still like, I'm like, oh my god, I'm a little scared here. And then I go into Ubers, like Uber Stars, boom, no problem. Uber Maven, boom, no problem. And like Eater, Exarch, etc. is no problem. The only thing that's going to be a little bit scary for my build is going to be Shaper and Uber Elder, because I don't have high fist mitigation. But everything else has been like super easy. The Ubers are trivial compared to tier 17s, and that is in big part to the mods. Now, I do actually love the concept that they have their own mods. That's something I've been a big proponent of in the past, where I was like, well, why doesn't Searing Exarch have their own mods if you're going to roll it? Why doesn't Eater Worlds have their own mods if you're going to roll it? I do like that you can run the invitations and stuff white, so that depending on where you are in the progression, it's like, well, I just have to opt out of it being as rewarding as it can be because my build's not strong enough, right? But I'm still able to do the boss at a base level. I would even like to see like the base level up a little bit and being able to run them white. But some of the mods are crazy. They're way harder than Ubers. And obviously this in Path of Exile started with like, first we had different mods in Delve, then we had different mods in Synthesis, but we couldn't like roll these ourselves. They're more RNG. But then with Conquerors of the Atlas, then we started with the invitations, being able to roll the invitations. And these were just completely generic map mods, and honestly they're quite okay. It's quite okay because most of them are pretty doable. There's going to be a little bit extra damage, not as much as the tier 17s. We've had more and more rollable things. But I do want to talk about, is it good to have these crazy mods rollable on tier 17s? Ubers are more inaccessible than ever before. Obviously before it was just farm a normal version of the boss, turn it into Uber with a keystone. But now you have to drop these 5 fragments. Honestly, from what I'm seeing on Reddit, it doesn't seem, I can't speak for softcore, but from what I'm reading, softcore doesn't seem happy with the way they are. I saw some guy did 40 Mavens and he lost 200 Divines. Like the items and drops from all are quite bad in my opinion. Like the normal bosses, like normal Eater only has the rare jewel and then melding. That's the only things that are worth anything. Everything else is trash. I ran like 80 or 90 and I was like, cool, I just wasted my time and I got nothing useful. Exarch just has the shield and the jewel, and the shield's not used as much because Pathfinder's dead right now. Normal Maven, you are literally only fishing for Awaken, Mold Strike, Spell Echo, like the rare gems. That's it. Normal Cyrus is actually probably quite okay still. The jewel, I mean the gloves are usable depending on corruption. I think they're still from normal. Because they've changed a lot of the drops around. The helmet's still from Cyrus, and that is good. It does end up being cheap because it's like, I'm not saying like that the items need to all be expensive. I mean, they are like endgame boss items. They should be like a little bit more usable than what they currently are. Like for example, the Maven boots, right? Like they're not expensive, but they're super great in a lot of builds. Well, honestly, there shouldn't be any like bad filler items on them, on the Ubers. They should all be like fairly very usable. And maybe Ashes and Omni should be on the regular versions again, and then add another strong unique to the Uber. The Ubers seem to mostly drop what is now like the new filler uniques that isn't really used a lot. They're not that great. And the rare ones are now incredibly rare, like getting the Progenesis and the Cyrus Flask and stuff like that. They are incredibly rare. I don't know. Maybe it would be healthy for them to have a few more uniques, a few more items, a few stronger ones. But right now, I think it's a great direction. I think it's such a good move to not have it be a keystone, because then you never want to do the normal boss. But in an attempt to make both bosses doable, I feel like they've made like the opposite. Like no boss is worth farming right now. Like both Ubers and normal bosses are in a bit of a bad state, which just needs some tuning. Like it just literally needs some tuning. I think it's definitely the right way to go. Definitely the right way to go. Tier 17s and stuff, I think it will be a really good addition to the game. Maybe next patch. Really wanted to make a video. Hopefully something will get changed next patch. Wanted to speak my mind of what I think is wrong with it. Like I said, Tier 17's way too hard, very inaccessible. Also a very weird spot to put the 5-slot map device unlock with the difficulty it's at right now, because it's so wildly inaccessible for players right now. More interesting drops on the normal bosses, more interesting drops on Ubers, balancing out the drop rates a little bit, and easier Tier 17s, I think would be my TLDRs. If Tier 17s are going to be this hard, then the 5-slot map device should be from something else. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video. Hopefully, we can have some good discussion in the comments too. Let me know what you think. If you think it's good the way it is, or what you think should change. If you agree, if you disagree, whatever. I'm not always right. These are just my thoughts. So thanks for watching. Sub if you liked the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.